they're pretty much the same all across the board.
Yeah.
Audit. It's pretty much pronounced audit anytime.
I think you're right.
And when you hear it, it makes you sweat a little bit.
It does.
It should, anyway.
It should. Knox County officials on Monday announcing a number of investigations, both state and local, into the school system's finances. The big question was, and we talked about it yesterday, was the school board wanted the external audit done, going back 5 years into the credit card system. Commissioner Brad Anders, the council chairperson, had already, or the head of the council had already said, or head of the Knox County Commission had already said they were going to do an internal audit. He'd already okayed that. So we heard that there was going to, there was a request by the chairperson from the Board of Education. Chairman,
like you said, going back.
Chairman Anders had already said he wanted to do an internal audit, so we were going to see what happened. Well, apparently the county commission had its work session yesterday, and they directed the county's internal audit department to conduct a performance audit and financial risk assessment into the school system's nutrition service department and into the credit card program, going back 2 years.
2 years.
The board basically said the internal auditor, not the school system, should determine the scope and parameters of the audit. In addition, the department was authorized, if needed, to extend the probe to cover the school system's overall purchasing card program and its traveling expenditures. The commissioners will officially approve the audits during their monthly voting meeting next week. So, turned out also, Butch Bryant, who's an attorney with the Knox County Sheriff's Office, told commissioners Monday that local authorities are working with the state comptroller's office on a criminal investigation, also tied to the financial misuse in the nutrition service department and with the credit cards. Okay. Pending criminal investigation, state comptroller is doing a forensic audit as well into the records. Apparently they have some information in regard to the credit cards, and they're investigating. So you got a pending criminal investigation. You got a forensic audit being done by the state comptroller, an internal audit and risk assessment that will be done here locally. And, of course, this all stemming from, we heard, of course, John Dickel in September. He was placed on administrative leave. He had apparently misused school funds, including gift cards, and financially benefited from a school system vendor getting a very deeply discounted price on a vehicle. And then last month, just a couple weeks ago, school leaders firing Roger Underwood. He's the Knox County Schools accounts payable supervisor for misusing his school-issued card. And then it turned out as well, after doing some digging, Mike Danilla, our buddy over at Screams from the Porch and WBIR, uncovering that the school system still months behind in its current credit card payments. So we're paying late fees and finance charges, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then they were finding out all kinds of other things that were happening. Just misuse of all those credit cards.
Then the school system...
All 6 of them.
Yeah, 6 cards. Then the school system immediately says, we're going to quit using credit cards and we're going to go to the e-system.
Did away with the cards last week, so they're going to do the e-card system, the county's electronic purchase card, and travel card system.
I guess better late than never.
Okay. Now, yeah, I mean, well, move in the right direction.
Yeah, it is.
Okay, but the problem is they let the problem get out of hand to begin with.
Right.
So the county officials basically comes down to they won't sign off on a request from the Knox County Board of Education to hire the county's external auditor to conduct an investigation. So the commissioner said they want to let the internal auditor, Andrea Addis, look into the matter first and let her decide later if a probe needs expanding. So that's what's going on there. So with that, take a quick break. $6:35 on this Veterans Day. It's the 11th day of November. Last night, deciding to go ahead with an internal audit, going back 2 years. Financial risk assessment as well, looking at the school system's nutrition service department and the credit card program. Again, they'll go back 2 years. And as far as the request from the school board to do the external audit, going back 5 years, The county commission county officials will not sign off on a request for that to hire the county's external auditor to conduct an investigation. They want to let the internal auditor, Andrea Addis, look into the matter first and let her decide later if the probe needs expanding. So the school board initially unanimously approved the measure to audit the card use during the past 5 years using external audit. But county commissioners saying no, they're going to do the internal audit going back 2 years, and then while that investigation goes on, they'll let the internal auditor make the decision if they want to expand that probe any further. But also there's a forensic audit being performed on a state level from the state comptroller. Because there's also local authorities working with the state comptroller's office on a criminal investigation, which is also tied to the Nutrition Service Department and credit cards and financial misuse. And the state comptroller is doing a forensic audit into the records. So you've got a couple different investigations occurring. So I don't know. Again, we talked about it yesterday. I think doing the internal audit, that's fine. At least something's being done. But the problem is, if you went ahead and said, all right, do the external audit, go back 5 years, then everything's open. You can't affect it. Internal audit, county officials still have an ability to. I mean, they shouldn't, and I'm not saying they will, but they still have the ability, or the perceived ability to affect that in some way. And it seems like, hey, do this, make sure there's nothing that's going to get out of hand as far as tying anybody else into this, and then we'll go ahead and go on. Yeah,
and it'll be interesting to see. I bet you there'd be a little bit more ammunition for a forensic audit if the state found something more awry, right?
Well, the comptroller office is doing a forensic audit.
Oh, they're doing a forensic audit.
The
that
state
might be part of
comptroller's
what,
office.
When I heard about that, that made it make a little bit more sense, but they may want to do their own.
Yeah, the state comptroller's office is working with local authorities on a criminal investigation that includes them doing a forensic audit into the records as part of that criminal investigation. So the state comptroller's office is already doing a forensic audit.
Well, but are they just going to do it until they find what they're looking for? Or are they going to do just a complete forensic audit of the credit cards?
If they're going to build a case, they probably need to do a complete forensic audit.
Yeah.
Or at least going back a certain time up until when whoever or whatever they're looking for, and then past that.
And here's the deal with that, is if they're doing it to build a case, the elected officials in the county are never going to get that.
Yeah.
It's just for the state, so...
But yeah, it's I don't know. Something needs to be done. Is enough being done with this? I'm not sure. There'd be no question if you went ahead and had an external auditor do a 5-year forensic audit. There'd be no question then. This still leaves questions and concerns.
Kinda, yeah, it does.
It leaves some open doors.
I mean, you gotta go back and question, how in the world did this fall through the cracks to begin with?
Yeah.
That's the whole thing.
People weren't watching, so it's time now to just go ahead and throw open all the doors and say, here, let it all in. We're going to sort it all out, and by the time it's all done, we'll figure out what to do then. But it's like they're a little safety net. Well, let's do this 2-year internal audit first. We'll go back 2 years. And then if anything else needs to expand, then we'll expand it. I don't know.
I'm like you. I'm kind of iffy about that.
I don't know. But then again, that's why we do what we do, and we're not there running anything in the county.
True.
Our number, 865-243-TALK, 243-8255. Good morning, Robert. You're on the Rude Awakening.
Good morning, gentlemen. Always a pleasure and a privilege.
It is ours, sir.
We are going to stay in the school system topic. It is my firm belief, after the number of years that I've personally dealt with Knox County school systems as a result of my daughter, that they are believers in damage control versus prevention. I'll give you an example. There is a special needs teacher assistant that is now under a lawsuit and is no longer allowed within a certain distance of the schools because of verbal and physical abuse that she performed on a couple of students during a number of years while she was there working and employed. What my point is, though, that there were a number of parents that went into and talked to the school administrators on several occasions, had written documentation of violations and other things that this person should not have been done, and they asked the school to excuse them from their responsibility with the children or child that they were responsible for. And they basically either one of two things. They just chose to ignore it, or they had no way of replacing the person and just chose to see if they could deal with it. And now it's going to bite them in the rear, and the Knox County taxpayer is going to be the one that pays for it. No administration is really going to get in any serious trouble. It's just the Knox County taxpayer that's going to have to pay for all the problems. And again, that's my point. They like to just handle damage control and deal with the problem after it's done instead of going ahead and exercising some prevention. Mm-hmm. And if they had, they probably would not have this lawsuit on their hands.
Now here's the kind of troubling thing with all that as well when it concerns this is you have what's gone on for so many years with the school administration and with the board prior to this. Now you've got a new board with several people on there that are wanting to not just be a rubber stamp, but actually work, try to improve things, and they're the ones that are requesting unanimously to have a 5-year external audit done. Let's go in and just throw everything open. Whatever we find, but let's start to fix the problem.
Well, let's find it.
And now it's the county commission saying, no, we won't do that yet. Let's just go ahead and do an internal audit and go back 2 years.
So internal audit, does that mean that it's not released until after the 2-year process?
No, that means that the county's internal auditor does it as opposed to an external third-party company.
Oh,
Pugh and
sort
Associates
of a pick and choose thing.
Yeah, I mean it's the county's internal auditor. It's the county's internal auditor that would come in and actually do it. And the county's auditor is Andrea Addis. And so some of the question is, well, you got somebody that, is here that works for the county, that, can somebody affect what she does or what she looks into? There's a possibility that should they? No, they shouldn't be able to, but there's always that question hanging out there. And rather than going back 5 years, they're only going to go back 2 years. And then if she finds something more, then she can expand the probe. As opposed to just a third party coming in saying, we don't have any link to this. We're just coming in as a paid auditor and we're going to go through everything over the past 5 years.
Sounds like a winner. So WBIR touched on this subject just a while back. Expect it to come back up in the news when it hits the courts, guys.
Well, Mike Dinella actually did the story that we're looking at this morning, and he's done a fabulous job covering this whole thing. Well, we appreciate the call, Robert. But Dinella at WBIR has been. He's been the guy. He's been covering this thing from end to end.
Oh, yeah, he has.
And, of course, his story this morning at WBIR.com, our news partner, you can go through and read the whole thing, read all the, also there's some links in there. You can actually go back and kind of follow up if you're kind of off the story a bit. But, it comes down to, look, are you throwing all the doors open, or are you just kind of peeking out the door going, here, you can look in for a little bit, but don't look over here. Don't look here. Just look here. Don't just put the blinders on and I'll hand you the stuff that you look at. And don't go too deep. Don't go too deep. We just need you to find this stuff. That's the perception that it's going to give.
Enlighten me on something, and I may refresh my memory, but wasn't this audit committee actually under fire about a year or so ago?
Just recently, yeah.
The head auditor was under fire in particular, right?
Okay. I mean,
he had to fight just to keep his pension.
Yeah. I know this is totally different things, but it just
the problem. That's another problem. You've got a department that itself hasn't been its best over the past recent history.
Yeah.
So that's another reason why. Hey, you bring in a third party. They come in here. They're kind of coming in here without any type of ties, without any type of baggage, and they're not going to be swayed by anybody. Again, that's the perception. I don't know. It's I don't know. It's interesting.
It's very interesting.
But we'll definitely keep an eye on this very closely and see what's going on. Hey, Veterans Day.